right. Man. So I'm in a new location. I'm actually at my parents' house. I'm happy to have with me today my father. And introduce yourself, Dad.
My name is Charles Ballard. I'm the father of Aloysius Ballard. Many people call him Lo.
Yeah. All right, Dad. Well, today, y'all will be seeing this on Father's Day. We're actually a bit ahead of Father's Day, but I wanted to, Dad, come on, and I felt like this was a great opportunity for us to kind of sit down and talk. I don't think we've ever really had a conversation like this about both of us just sharing about fatherhood. So I thought it'd be a great opportunity for us to do that. So let's take it back to the beginning. You were born and raised in Macon, Georgia. So let's talk about that. Let's start there. So tell us a little bit about your time in Georgia.
Yeah, as you said, I was born and raised in Macon, Georgia. That's my roots, and I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but nonetheless, yeah, I grew up in Macon, Georgia. I left home when I was about 18 years old, and I moved to Atlanta, and we stayed there a couple of years. I did.
Okay.
That's where I met my wife, the love of my life, and we went together all the time. We was in school.
Hold on, Dad. Let's see. 'Cause we got to make sure. Do you want to hold it? Let me see.
Okay.
Talk now.
Testing one time.
Oh, that's much better. There we go. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, trying to sit in my lap.
I just want to be able to hear you.
Okay.
All right.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. So you met Mom in Atlanta.
Yeah, I met my wife in Atlanta when we was going to school, and so we went together all the time. We was in school, and actually, my wife came to Mississippi before I did, and so I moved down to work at Ingalls in the shipyard, and so when I came down, me and my wife got married, and that's been over 45 years ago.
Wow.
And so this year we'll be celebrating our 46-year anniversary, and it's been a blessing since then.
Now, I'm trying to remember if I actually know. How did you actually meet Mom?
I met her. Oh, you want to hear the story?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually heard how you met Mama.
She don't like for me to tell everything.
Well,
But nonetheless, the very first day I saw my wife, I told my friend, me and my homeboy, what we say homeboy, we was sitting on the step, and I saw my wife walk across the floor, and I told my friend, I said, there go my wife right there. I didn't even know her name, hadn't even met her, and everything. So
sometimes it hits you like that.
oh yeah. So when I did get a chance to meet her, there was a lot of people, a lot of guys, I say it like that, they was after my wife, and so when I got a chance to meet my wife, it must have been the same thing. We just hit it off, and me and my wife been together and been married. We got married after we graduated from school, and it's just been a blessing ever since then. She's my friend, my buddy, and she's been through everything with me, and matter of fact, she birthed me two good children, and one of them sitting right here next to
Yeah.
me.
Now, if you don't know, I am the baby of the family, and I always joke with Mama because I call myself the wrecking ball. I did a lot of damage coming into this world.
Oh yeah.
Now you and Mom moved to Mississippi, and y'all got here. Y'all were starting a new life. Now, what's funny is my mother comes from a more rural area of Georgia, but you grew up in the city.
Yeah.
So how was that?
Well, if you want to know the whole story, Yes, I grew up in the streets, and I was a street boy. A street boy. Actually, my father died when I was 8 years old, and so like some people say, they take it to the streets. I went to the street, ran in gangs, and did a lot of things that a young adolescent person is gonna do when they find other avenues to venture out to learn about. And as I look back over my life, a lot of decisions I was making that for my future, um, um, I was making during those times. Um, I had a lot of bad incidents with some of my friends. Matter of fact, I had a couple of my friends to almost get killed in the gang, and I almost got killed in the gang.
I ain't know that, Daddy.
Yeah, and street fighting and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I was doing a lot of that to try to find friends or fit in. It's the normal thing that young people
Belong.
do. And so, or what they call it, peer pressure, or different things like that. And so, in the midst of all that, sometimes you can find yourself, and sometimes you can lose yourself. So, one of my friends, I could say, one with one gang fight, I it was one particular night. My mama told me not to go nowhere. I got upset, and she said, "You gonna stay in the house tonight?" Because she gave me so much freedom to be in the streets and stuff. So this particular night, she told me, "You can't go," and I know now it was the leading of the Lord for her, for me.
Yeah.
Because that particular night I would have been with my friends, and this particular gang, crosstown rival, they caught my friend and they beat him so bad. They beat him he almost lost his life. And when I saw him, he was in the hospital about 3-4 days later, and he was still almost unrecognizable.
Wow.
And so I started making up my mind then. I said, it's time for me to start separating myself away from my friends. I think I was around about 15 years old then. And there's a lot of things that, I say with fatherhood that I look back to look back at decisions that I made, that when my father died when I was 8, I was the 7th child out of 9, and so my older brothers and everybody, they had already got up and got out the house. And so when I came up, I still didn't have like a father figure, or all my big brothers was gone.
Yeah.
So in the effort going out there, like I say, trying to find fathers and big brothers, and I got connected to the wrong people and did the wrong things for trying to fit in. And so so you learn things that, different things make different decisions in your life, that you'll think about your future. And I look back at those things and realize that, I made some decisions that I know even when you was growing up, why, certain way I was teaching you certain things and stuff like that, not trying to make you or do a whole lot of things, but try to influence you not to go certain ways or not to be connected to certain people, because I had been there and I've seen a lot of things I didn't want you to see, But nonetheless, a lot of things that I did, it helped shape me in the decision making, and even to this day, And
So let me ask you this, Daddy. Now, because you were, 8 when your dad passed. What was that period like after losing your dad? Like, did it change in the house?
Oh yes. As I said, my mama had, my mother, my father, they had 9 children, and So after my father passed, our family started to break down, and I seen, my older brothers and sisters and them, they all started to getting up, and they was leaving. They was hurrying up and getting out the house and getting away. They was moving to different states and different things like this. And I seen all this, and all of that had a lot of effect on me.
Yeah.
Now, um, all of us, we stayed close, but we was far away. And so that affected me in a lot of ways because
Everybody's leaving.
yeah. Hmm.
So, because now that I'm, looking back and listening to you tell the story, like, for me as your son, it makes a lot more sense to me, now that I know and can understand more of your backstory. Because now I couldn't imagine losing you, and then like everybody leaving, like what that mentally you have to process as you're growing older.
Yeah.
But then also having to try to be a young man trying to find himself. A lot of who I am as a man today comes directly from your influence as my dad. And that's why I was excited about us having this conversation, because I said, like, we've always had talks, but the adult side of me has never really just been able to just have this conversation where I really get to understand, like, how you became the man you became, which directly influenced how I became the man I am. And now, being a father myself, how I can be the influential father figure to our child, our son, Caden. So, like, I know growing up, I'm being, we talk about this. I just thought you were really hard on me.
No.
For like no reason. Like, there was a lot of times I was like, man, I just could not figure out why you just like you. And I understand it now that you were really just trying to keep me in a place where I was not going, I wouldn't go that way, but I would also be able to handle myself and function in life. And as Caden turns 12 this year, I every time I see him, I can't. It's like this feeling that I tell him all the time, like, son, my biggest concern is like preparing you for what I know you're gonna have to face. And that's why I tell you now. I think I tell you now more than ever how much I appreciate everything you've done for me, because I am prepared to live in a world, to take care of my family, to deal with the adversities that we have to face, and then face as a black man, because there's countless times where I can't just react how I would want to react. And I remember you used to always tell me that, like, son, be in control of your emotions. You just can't do that. You just can't do that. And was that something, because I know you did tell me this before, that, like you said, I didn't really have an example of what fatherhood was.
Right.
So what was it like, mom gets pregnant, y'all have us, Leisha, and then I come, a year, not even 2 years later, less than 2 years. So you're a father like back to back.
Oh, yeah.
I had 3 years in between Atiana and Caden. So it was a little bit like you kind of, by the time Caden came, she was kind of self-sufficient. Mina and I were like kind of, you settle into it. But you were right back to back.
Yeah, and that's amazing that you're saying that, looking back, like I said, I left home when I was 17. Well, yeah, 17. Well, I graduated from the DeVry Institute when I was 20 years old, just a little bit past 20, and I moved to Mississippi right when I had just turned 21, and moving from one state to another state, and coming to somewhere I'd never been. I never had been to Mississippi. And then when we got here, then me and my wife decided to get married a month later after I got here. And so all these new experiences, one after another, one after another. And like I said, we got married in 76. And so about a year and a half later, my wife got pregnant with my daughter. And so it was some pressing times because, like you said, when we moved to Mississippi, there was a lot of things about Mississippi that I had never heard. But coming from Georgia and coming from when I was growing up, I was part of a lot of the civil rights movement. I was part of the generation that had to break the integration, integrate the school systems, and it was a lot of experiences that I went through, during those times. We had riots at our schools and different things like this. Trying to break that racial barrier and that separation, that segregation, thing that you may see played out on television. Mm-hmm. We actually lived those things out. When National Guard was called in for race riots on our schools and and different things like that. And so it's a long story, but coming from it was in my life just like it was one experience after another. And then when me and my wife did, when we started working down at Shipyard, we was young. We didn't have no managerial skills. We didn't have nobody to teach us,
what to do
about things on how to, to save, different basic things that you would need instructions from your parents.
Because y'all were young, 20, 21?
Mm-hmm.
Man.
And when we was from Georgia down here in Mississippi, sometimes we would get lonely and want to see our family, and I say, honey, you want to just, let's just go to Georgia. Just for the weekend, not planning and not different things like this, and so we'll jump up and we'll just go and spend money because we were just spending money because we had money, and not realizing that there was going to come times of recessions and different experiences. After you was born, make a long story short, the job market. Even on our job, my wife got laid off. Matter of fact, when you was born.
Yeah.
And
because they had just ended a war, it was coming out of that where it was going into a peaceful time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't need ships and peace.
Yeah, that's right. And that was right. And so they was laying off. I mean, I can tell the whole story, but the thing from my experiences was that. Okay, I'll make a long story short. In 1980, me and my wife, we ended up in bankruptcy.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of things I see that a lot of young people, a lot of couples, they do because they or they don't have the
guidance
and
the educational prowl to know what to do.
Mm-hmm. And so that's why I take a lot of time now, and I try to instruct a lot of young people because I've been through those experiences. And so right after that, my wife, she had lost her job first, and I was able to keep on working. So I ended up working almost like 3 jobs at one time just to support my family. I've never, allowed my family to suffer.
Yeah, I that's one thing I can say that probably why I work the way I do is that you have always, I've never known you to not be a working person. Mm-hmm. Like double shift, you would take it. Mm-hmm. I remember you would tell us, Leisha, like, hey, I'm gonna get home late tonight. I'm working a double overtime, and while they giving it out, I'm gonna take it. And then you would get right back up the next morning
Yeah.
and do it all over again.
And I tell people that a lot of times they look at that. I tell the church, I tell them all the time. That's why I don't like to make excuses and I don't like to take excuses because on our job they used to give us attendance bonuses, and I would get every attendance bonus for the year, every year. I couldn't remember the last time I didn't get an attendance bonus.
Yeah.
Every 40 days, like I said, they gonna pay me to come to work. I'm coming to work. I said they gonna pay me some extra money right now. So
Yeah.
I went on to work, and I'm telling you, and I got dependent upon making those attendance bonus because I always had in mind to try to make, have it to where I could make my family succeed,
You took us on a trip.
Yeah.
We always went on somewhere.
Yeah.
We always did things. And then too, Dad, looking at the coast spectrum, I would have thought you and Mom would have probably felt more comfortable in Moss Point. Y'all moved to Ocean Springs, which is in the area itself. I know they were not happy about black people moving into that area at the time.
Yeah. And you're right. Actually, when the first time I came to Ocean Spring, a lot of people might not realize this, but they used to have the Ku Klux Klan right there on Highway 57 and Highway 90. They would take up collection money right there.
Wow.
On the corner of Highway 90 and Highway 57, right there on that corner. And that was one of the strangest things I ever seen. I knew the Klan was here, but for me to see them out there in person taking up money on the corner, I said that blew my mind, and you're right, but actually, and I see they used to ride down on Highway 90 with the Confederate flags on the back of the trucks and stuff like that. I said that was. I had never seen that.
Yeah.
I knew it was there, but I had never seen it. But when I got here and I seen it, it wasn't long after that though.
Yeah.
That a lot of that was shut down
for
some reason, and so actually, I moved in the neighborhood. It was interracial neighborhood, and actually we had good neighbors, black and white, and we all looked out for one another, and and so you knew because you grew up in that neighborhood, and so that's why when I was growing up, my mama always told me never, don't never judge a person by the color of their skin. And I remember Martin Luther King say, never judge a man by the color of his skin, but by the context of his character. And that's the way I've always done. I had friends, of all races, nationalities, and things, and still have friends today like that because I try to keep myself where I look at the person and not just judge people based on what we, have experienced. Have I experienced, racism? Yes, I have. Have I experienced being a victim, of society, what we face today? Yes, but you have to be careful because sometimes it can flip, and you may be in a position where you may be the majority or might not be the minority. So you always got to realize how you feel about people. And if you
tables turn, as they say.
Mm-hmm. And so yes, that was a real experience, I say.
Yeah.
When we moved here.
Now, when I was born, go back to the fast forward a little bit. Mama said I stayed sick.
Oh yeah.
Which also played a part in her switching up.
Oh yeah. When you was born, my wife experienced a lot of complications.
Yeah.
And like I said, a lot of the things that we went through financially, those the things that you would stay in the hospital like 11, 12 days at a time. They would have you in a bubble in a tent, and like I would have to. My wife would be with you all day, so I would come up and stay with you at night, and then sometime I would spend the night at the hospital. To leave, I would leave the hospital and go on to work, and to give her a break from being there with you every day, and all day long, and so it was really a tough time, and so after that, my wife actually lost her job. So that was the thing where I say in 1980 we ended up bankrupt because she got laid off, and so wasn't no jobs out there, and we couldn't find no work, and so that particular time we made a decision that I told my wife, you just stay at home with my children, and so I did whatever I had to do to support my family. I purposed in my mind that.
Now, that mindset, because, to me, I just think it's so commendable because, losing granddaddy at 8 and then, like, you're pretty much figuring it out as you go along. And, like I said, being a father and then having to be a father with a sick child,
Mm-hmm.
and then in the middle of that, mom losing her
Mm-hmm.
her job, and then all of that pressure,
Mm-hmm.
like being on you, you still make the decision of saying, "Hey, just take care of home. I'll figure the rest out. I'll do that. I'll consistently, make sure everything's taken care of."
Mm-hmm.
And then, you even what you mentioning on having to rebuild your financial literacy,
Yeah.
and dealing with work and working that much because a lot of people, if you're listening, I want you to understand, like, my dad would get up at like 3 in the morning, 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning,
Yep.
to go to work. And a lot of times we wouldn't see you if you didn't work double, you'd be home by 4.
Mm-hmm.
But you were pretty much working all day, and then the double shifts and all the things that were extra, you would still pick up if you could.
Mm-hmm.
And like as a father, like that's I understand it's a lot. Thankfully, none of our kids have been sick like that or anything, but we had a spell when Mina was down, and I understand, like, not knowing, like, you having to go to work and not knowing if everything at the house is okay,
Yeah.
and that kind of just weight and thought process is a lot to consider, while you're just trying to get through the day.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, because I when I wanted us to have this conversation, I wanted people to understand, like, fatherhood is a decision every day.
Yep.
Like, somebody asked me one time, like, "Man, you're a great dad, man. I love watching how you are with your kids." And I'm thinking, like, man, I'm just trying to not mess it up.
Yeah. You're right. That's why I say fatherhood. It's good if you have an example. But say, I used to have to try to find examples. It don't come with instruction. Then sometimes, most people do find an example. Sometimes it could be the right example, wrong example. It's just like you said, according to the decision that you made. I do remember one of my friends. His father was like self-employed, and he did upholstery work, and his name was Mr. J.D. Parker. And actually, when I seen him in his business, actually, he influenced my life just for a short period of time because I didn't know him that long. But Mr. J.D. Parker, I just liked the way he carried himself. I liked the way he reached out to me as my friend, father, and he kind of influenced me, talked to me just for a little bit, but even though a little bit of time like
Yeah.
that, things like that, when you don't know, you may put a seed in a person that you don't never know what that seed going to turn out to be. And so I've seen that he was a hardworking person. He took care of his family, and so that was a good influence that I saw. That helped me a little bit too.
Now, let me ask you this because, now you are, a grandfather, a great grandfather. When you look at your generations of how things are turning and building, how does that make you feel? Like going from that 8-year-old kid to now you have 2-3 generations under your patriarch. Like, how does that feel for you in this season of your life?
I think about that a lot. And one thing I want to say is this. One thing that I hope to leave as a legacy to my children is I've came through many types of, I've seen our country go through many fashions and generations. And one thing that sticks with me, I promote this all the time, is that right now in the generation where we're in now, it's all about imaging, branding, selfies, social media and different things. I'm not coming down on it, but in the midst of all that, imaging and different things like this, you can actually lose yourself.
Yeah.
And you can get caught up in an image that's really not the real character of who you are. And so one of the things that I hope that you and all my children do is never lose the essence of who you really are. Because if you lost yourself in image, then you lost a reality of who you really are. And so sometimes as the Bible teaches us, the Lord tell us that we have to love one another. And so sometimes when you're all about yourself, one of the characteristics that the Lord taught me was, if we're going to follow him, we have to deny ourselves. You have to become a servant, serve other people, and not self-serve yourself. And you will get a fulfillment and gratification in that when you do that, because, most people now, they're out for themselves. And most people, that's why I see the society is going. And it's troubling to see, because people always live their life in the abstract instead of the real substance who they are. You never know what you get. You never know what, if this person for real. You're always frisking them and trying to find out if they sincere for who they are.
Their motives.
If you find a true friend, you thought that was a true friend, and then you come out to find out that they was really just running games on you all the time, then you have a tendency to become cynical about anybody. And so then after a while you won't trust anybody, and that's a dangerous position to be in. And so that's what I'm saying, is that if I could leave one thing that I want my children to do, be true to who you are.
Yeah. To that, that's funny you say that, because that's probably my greatest motto that I tell anybody when people ask me, like, what do you try to live by? And one of the things is, I never forget it. I read it years back, and it was to thyself be true.
Yeah.
And when I read that, it just kind of hit me, because I was like, man, like that to me is a life statement. When you get to the end of your life, that's something I always said I wanted to be able to say. I was always true to myself. And sometimes that means, you don't get to, stay in the popularity crowd.
Right.
Sometimes it means you walk alone a lot. But, I'm okay with that. And that's why I say, I'm, hindsight is 20/20, they say. And, the older I get, I'm really understanding that, accountability, just discipline. Like some of these things like that are just priceless things that really we all should get, but we all don't get from our parents. But especially with me and fatherhood, I'm looking at how am I teaching or raising our kids to be able to look at themselves, like you said. Are you true to yourself? Like I'll mention to Caden all the time. I tell him, here's your list of chores. This is what we ask you to do. When I come in and I know you've half made the bed just because you're trying to, get around me, checking your list, and I'm asking him, is this what you want people to say about you? When you were responsible for something, or when we counted on you to do something that that you agreed to do, like this is what you present. Like, is this what you want people to see when your name is on something? Because you used to always say that to me, and I used to always think about that. You used to tell me all the time, like, what is your name gonna stand for? Yep. I remember even sometime I wanted to hang out in the, y'all raised us where we got along with everybody, and people would always want me around a lot of things, not to necessarily be doing the bad stuff they were doing. They just wanted me around. And I remember you would tell me, son, you watch when they years from now, I'm telling you what's going to happen to them. And a lot of it was dead on the nail. Like, a lot of people ended up in places that they did not probably think they were. But you used to always tell me, when people say your name, what do you want people to say when your name is mentioned? And, those nuggets, I think, help, because a lot of people look at the outcome of how, my life, has come out. I'm able to do a lot of things. And, we could be here hours talking about, some of the things that you put in place, always pushing our minds, our spiritual walk with God, just all the way around as people. You always make sure you educated us and made us well-rounded in all walks of life. And from that, being a dad now, I realize that's hard to do consistently, because I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, man, I'm tired of talking. Like, making disciples or keeping discipline in people is extremely challenging.
Well, see, one thing I always knew about you was that you always had the characteristics of a leader, and so people, when they're in a position like that, they look up to people in leadership, and because leaders help define our morals, our values, and our standards, and so we live in a society now, as I say, it's about imaging, branding, and just being social, not relational. And so the standards and the morals have been lowered, and so now they'll call things like, they'll call it old school, or they'll call it old antiquated ways and stuff like that. But some things the Bible said they're sound. You'll never deviate from. And like I said, be true to yourself, as you said. The next thing is have the value of your family, And at that time, I remember when y'all was growing up, and I know that when I started seeing y'all venture out, you was, and we knew that you had to go. You had to experience what the world was all about. So you had to define your identity. And so we always gave you the freedom to do that. And so in that, we just hoped and prayed that what we had imparted into your life, and we knew that if we put good things in, good things will come out. That's what I tell all the time. If you do the right thing, then the right thing will always follow you. You do the wrong thing will always follow you. When I go to the prison and I talk to the young boys up in there, the young men, I ain't say young boys, I talk to the young men up in there, and they say, well, my life is in this condition because my father wasn't around. And they say, they blame things that they're doing based on what their father didn't do. I said, well, my father wasn't around because my father was dead. So I don't have anybody I can blame anything on. But you have to make up your mind, how you want your life and take responsibility, And when I'm teaching the men, I teach them about responsibility because as a man and as a father, you are responsible. You're responsible. And that word responsibility comes from the compound word ability to respond.
Yeah.
And so life is going to put you into a lot of situations where you're going to have the ability to respond to it. And so, and it's hard sometimes, it's tough sometimes. But as a man, you have to just take it in and make up your mind, that, hey, I'm going to tough this out. I'm going to see how it's going to come. And then, in the end, if you do the right thing, then in the end, the right result will come out.
Yeah. Well, man, Dad, I really, man, we're going to have to do this again. I think this is a great just segment that more people probably need to hear because you see a lot of, like you said, we live in a society now where everybody's selfish. Mm-hmm. There's very little self-abnegation. If it doesn't serve me, mm-hmm. I don't care. Yeah. And we're raising people, and we're wondering why all these shootings are happening, and because people aren't valuing anything. Yeah. Like nobody's saying that instead of just going berserk, like you mm-hmm. hold yourself accountable for some of this stuff, mm-hmm. because like I will say that I the freedom you and Mom really gave me freedom, but in that I remember there was times where I would want to do something, mm-hmm. and then my mindset would regurgitate the things that I knew you guys had taught me mm-hmm. about my own decisions, mm-hmm. and then about what those decisions would not only do to me but to others. Mm-hmm. That's right. And because of that, like it helped me stay away and stay clear mm-hmm. of a lot of dangers out in the world. And I think a lot of times people just set their kids free. Mm-hmm. They just, because they don't want to deal with them. So you just give them freedom just so that you don't have to deal with them, instead of equipping them mm-hmm. with the know-how to say, no, I'm worth more than this. Or like you used to tell me, because, I did not understand how I could get in trouble for leading people mm-hmm. to do something that they weren't supposed to do. Mm-hmm. So you be like, son, they did it because you did it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, they should have been able to have a decision mm-hmm. on their own, mm-hmm. but that's not always the case. No. Sometimes, like you said, you taught me, it's on you to lead people. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of times we don't teach young people, our children, that sometimes life is going to deal you some things that everybody else doesn't have to respond to. Mm-hmm. But in that, you got to hold yourself accountable mm-hmm. to say, no, I need to be someone that can be trusted with the ability to, take folks to a good place mm-hmm. and direction.
Even Jesus said he sanctified himself that we may be sanctified. We have to understand that our life impacts and relates to another life, and what we do can greatly impact the outcome of a person's life. And see, and that's one thing, as I said before my father died, I seen him do some things that I I wouldn't want my children to see.
Yeah.
And so I can say that truly, that y'all never seen me do certain things
Yeah.
that I have to be regretful of. And so, because I always thought about that, I thought about how I felt, seeing my father do a certain thing that I didn't like, you know, and um, and so I said I don't want my children to feel like that. And so, like I said, in I said earlier, in effort of you trying to find your way and identify yourself, there are gonna be thresholds you're gonna cross over. There's gonna be decisions you got to make that's gonna impact your life in the short term and in the long term. And so if you think about the long term, that you have to live with this longer than right now, just a short term, then you'll make your decision based on the outcome is going to have a greater lasting effect or legacy behind it. So that's the thing. That's the thing that it conscious of, because it's easy to be swayed or cave into what's popular or what's trending or
Yeah.
anything like that. And like I said, you have to make up your mind. Am I going to stay true to myself, as you said, And so those decisions, when you come to those points, you have to make.
Well, Dad, as we wrap, look, I definitely want to end telling you again, I thank you so much for, being my dad and just help making my life what it is today. Not just my life, because now your seeds have affected my son, and it's just so much wealth in that. Just being able to have a good example, being able to just take care of my family, and know what it means to be a man, and just everything that comes with it. I know a lot of times it's easy as children for us to, we focus in on our own lives and we grow up, and I understand that, but it's just good every so often to just stop and tell your parents, that you appreciate them, and I love you, and
I love you too, son.
Hey, all I want to do with my life is just continue to spread that love and legacy of what you and Mom have created, and through all that adversity, through all the stuff that you guys have endured, I think if I can get to the end of my life and be able to see my kids doing, continuing what we have lived, then I know I've done my job. And just keeping the legacy of you and Mom going. Mm-hmm. So I just love both of you tremendously, and thank God that y'all were my parents. So
I appreciate you too, son. And the scripture says the glory of the children is their father. So you have to think about that, the dignity and respect of the children is their father. So if you live that life before them, they might not understand in the short term, but as me and you grow older,
yeah,
I think we're growing closer in our relationship, because we're growing close to God. And so you have to be able to take time to let them see that they're gonna search out. And so give them time to search it out, but then just realize they're gonna come back.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you for that.
Yeah. Hey, I hope you guys have enjoyed our talk today. I really want to do more of these. It's just a lot. You can only talk about so much in a certain amount of time. But share this with someone. Share this with a new father. Share this with someone who may be missing or never had a dad. There's a lot of great points my dad shared today, and that's what I want, man. We got to get back to helping each other. We share all this stuff online that either demeans or tears down, or puts us in a bad space. Let's start sharing some stuff that builds us up, builds our communities, builds our youth, and let's get it into them early. I'm a living product of that, and so many lives. I didn't even touch on how many other people my parents have literally been parents to, and their lives are very well off, and they're good people and they're just doing great things, and it comes from making that conscious decision to do so. So thank you for tuning in. Until next time, I'll talk to you.